Well, the first in-person podcast with Maolu Woiwor, a buddy of mine that I've known for a couple of years. Haven't seen him in a minute, but he's in town in Knoxville. How's it going, Malu?
I'm doing pretty well, Adolfo. Appreciate you having me up here. You and Hunter. I know he's not here tonight, but appreciate you guys letting me on the platform and being the first podcast before this thing really blows up.
100%, man. So let the people know who you are.
I'm Maolu Woiwor, wrestling coach at this point, former wrestling athlete. Met you back in Minnesota where I wrestled for Apple Valley. I met you through our good buddy Cameron Sikora, so shout out to Cameron for making this connection probably, dude, over 10 years ago for sure. So I've known Adolfo for a while, and yeah, on the coaching grind right now. Myself and Seth Gross started a wrestling club. It's called FTW, Fun to Watch Wrestling Club, but breaking news, I guess, we'll debut here on the podcast. We'll be rebranding to the Maverick Training Center, where we expect some great things to come in these next couple of years.
Awesome, man. So this club, where's it going to be?
So it's going to be located in Janesville, Milton, Wisconsin, kind of that area. We're currently looking at facilities and trying to make things make sense right now, but we're running our club out of Milton, Wisconsin right now.
Interesting. Well, man, you mentioned Seth Gross. How do you guys know each other?
So Seth and I actually go back quite a while. It actually began on the youth wrestling circuit where him and I competed against each other, and I teched him maybe like 4 or 5 times. That's untrue. He beat me maybe 2 or 3 times, sent me home crying. And this is when I wrestled for a school in Minnesota called Becker, and then I transferred to Apple Valley, my brother and myself, when I was in 7th grade, and that's when I first actually met Seth and became friends with him, and became best friends in middle school, and been tight since then. And he convinced me to come out to the Madison area about a year and a half ago and start this wrestling club, and we both shared a vision that we believe in, and kind of to share that vision and be able to impact the next generation of wrestlers and grow our club has been awesome so far, and we're excited about the direction it's going.
Interesting. Man, what age did you start wrestling?
So I started wrestling about like 5 or 6 years old. I came home from kindergarten with a wrestling flyer, and at the time I was a super fan of The Rock, also known as Dwayne Johnson. When he was completely committed to the WWE, I thought I was The Rock, in fact, and so I came home with the wrestling flyer, told my parents I wanted to do the same thing, and they swindled me into going to practice, and I showed up and was disappointed with what I saw, but I went to my first tournament, got first place, probably beat some scrubs, but I saw the trophy, and I've been hooked ever since.
Other than Seth, during your younger days of wrestling, who else did you compete against, and who were some of your teammates?
Okay, so competition-wise, I guess it would start at home. Since birth, my big brother Daniel Woiwor, so shout out to Daniel. He's doing some awesome things in Southern California. I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, but Daniel was always my competitor and kind of the standard for me growing up. He somebody I really looked up to and aspired to be, not just in wrestling but in all sports. But as far as wrestling-wise, growing up in Becker before we transferred to Apple Valley, my brother and myself, we actually were in the same town and wrestled for the same club as the McKee brothers, Mitchell and Patrick. So I got to grow up with them and their family, and their late father. Their whole family is amazing. So got to grow up with those guys. Then once we got to Apple Valley, it was just star-studded lineup with Mark Hall, my boy, Mark Hall, Seth Gross, Gable, Steveson. Wow, there's way too many to name. A lot of guys I looked up to: Destin McCauley, Dakota Trom, Matt Kelleher. We had a stack lineup: Ben Sullivan. Yeah, a bunch of awesome names. I'm for sure forgetting some guys, but a lot of guys I really looked up to. And Bobby Steveson, Gable Steveson, of course. They came maybe my freshman or sophomore year. And all those names I said had a huge impact on me and my growth within the sport and outside of it.
Man, really cool stuff. What time period was this?
As far as transferring.
No, like the years that you were competing in high school.
Okay, so I moved to Apple Valley in 7th grade, which in Minnesota you're eligible to start wrestling varsity. I had the tough challenge of being, in the lineup with the number one team in the country. So I was maybe a third string 103 pounder my 7th grade year behind Jordan Kingsley brothers, two awesome guys out of Apple Valley, Jordan and Brandon. But I was behind Jordan and then Seth Gross. And then my 8th grade year, I was just behind Seth Gross. And then freshman year, when I finally cracked the lineup, was when the weight changed from 103 to 106. But I moved to Apple Valley in 7th grade and started competing in varsity in 9th grade.
Yeah, man, Apple Valley during that time, number one in the country, competing with the best of them. What was training like there?
Training was as advertised. I think competing against the best guys in the country and being able to see what the gold standard of wrestling looked like in front of your eyes every day. I think in middle school, Seth would probably say the same thing, but we were, like, our class, our generation was a little bit ignorant to, being in the room, still having childish tendencies as far as not paying attention, still, like, goofing off during practice. And I think 8th grade summer was really when I transitioned to starting to take it more seriously. But training regimen wise, it was rigorous training during the year. Obviously, you had guys coming in from football at the start of the wrestling season, so getting those guys into shape, but then also just nonstop competing with the best guys in the country from live wrestling. And anybody who was at Apple Valley at that time knows about joy runs, which were sprints down and back. Pretty big wrestling room. It was 2 sprints down and back, then up the rope and down. We had to get there at a certain time limit, and if we didn't hit that time limit, then we had to do it again. And I can't take credit, but a lot of the guys were doing it with weighted vests, like Destin McCauley, my brother. And I think the big thing, like I said, it just goes back to seeing guys I at that time idolized, and I still have a lot of respect for, but I was more of a fan at that point in my middle school career. So seeing them up close, just banging out in practice, was something I greatly benefited from.
Man, you mentioned some big names that you were on the same team with. Can you talk about any stories of Mark Hall, Gable, Seth Gross that just stick out to you?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Maybe Mark Hall at the state tournament his 7th grade year?
Yeah. We spoke a little bit off camera about that, but Mark Hall, he was just Mark is he's a pure dude. He's a great person. And Mark, he has something to him that people gravitate towards, whether it's from watching his performances or just the kind of person he is. But everywhere we went, when Mark transferred from Kentucky to Apple Valley, it was like it turned into the Mark Hall show, which I was grateful to be a part of. And a lot of people traveled from, out of town to go watch whenever Apple Valley came to town, and Mark was a big reason of that. Mark, we had a great relationship off the mat too, which I think really helped our team chemistry with a lot of those guys. The story with 7th grade, he was wrestling Ben Morgan. I don't know if it was the state quarterfinals, but Ben headlocked him, and a lot of people, the consensus was that Mark was pinned. I can't call it myself, but Mark started with a pretty big deficit, ended up wrestling his way back to beating Ben Morgan. And, to be 13 years old at the time, however old he was as a 7th grader, and, you got thousands on thousands of people at the XL Energy Center on their feet cheering when you go down. It was a lot of adversity he overcame off the mat and on the mat that really made me respect what Mark was about. And I think it was just a testament to his character, how he handled it all the way through. Especially, you had grown men online assassinating his character that didn't know the guy. And, I mean, you deal with that kind of stuff as an adult, collegiately or on the senior level. But Mark's been dealing with that kind of pressure since he was 12, 13 years old. And to see up close how he handled it was incredible. And he's a great dude. All those guys are great. I had a lot of experience on the road with Seth Gross. I think just a lot of memories with him. Go back to Fargo too, when he made an unprecedented run, beating Joey McKenna to win his Fargo title. Not in the finals. I think he beat Cole Weaver, but Seth is just the kind of dude that he's always been the underdog. So even now, you know, people understand how good he is, and the world's finally got to see. I don't think they've seen his full potential yet until he's on top of that Olympic podium. But Seth was always the underdog in the room. You know, a lot of the older kids didn't believe him and gave him a hard time. And, you know, I don't want to go in on his story too much, but he dealt with, you know, a lot of people kind of bullying him. He wasn't always shredded up like he is now, but he overcame a lot, and he always believed in himself. And I remember he told some older guys on the team he was going to go wrestle for Iowa before he ended up committing to him. And he ends up winning Fargo a couple times, you know, puts himself in position to be a top guy in the country. And he really, you know, he did it off his own hard work and faith. So respect that guy a lot. And as far as the other guys, there's countless stories, but one I do remember with the Steveson brothers is being, I don't know if I was in some like pre-calc or algebra class, something like that, and I get a call from the office to my teacher at the time, and they told me to go down to the principal. And I was a goofball once in a while, but I knew I didn't do anything to warrant going to the principal's office. And I get down there, and there's a couple light-skinned brothers just like myself, and our coach at the time, Coach Wasman, is like, "Hey, these are the Steveson brothers. They just moved into town from Maryville, Indiana. Can you show them around the school?" And I thought it was tight, but I didn't really think too much of it. And they told me about Bobby and Gable, and I knew they were going to be good. But, you know, both of them ended up being obviously huge assets to our team. And I don't have to speak too much on what Gable Steveson accomplished or what he's about, but, you know, it was an honor to be teammates with those guys as well.
Dude, that's crazy. I know Mark Hall's known for being the first 6-time Minnesota State champ, but also, you know, having 6 team titles.
Yes.
That's nuts, man. How was it just being part of a state championship team? And can you talk about any, like, duel that just, like, sticks out the most to you?
Yeah. Dude, once again, like, just extremely, extremely grateful for the opportunity to have competed on those teams. And that goes to my parents' sacrifice of getting us to Apple Valley, and, you know, my siblings who sacrificed friends and family from where we moved from, you know, to be able to be on those teams, and all the people at Apple Valley that embraced us and accommodated us. As far as being on the team, man, it was something. I try not to live in the glory days, but that is something I'll forever cherish, is being a part of those, you know, primetime years at Apple Valley. Not to overstate it, but it felt like, you know, being on the Yankees, going to some away tournaments. And like I said, we had people come in from all out of town that had no dog in the fight at the tournaments we were at, but they just came to watch us with the Mark Halls, with a lot of the big name guys, or, you know, going up to North Dakota. That Lisbon tournament was always a memorable one. But I think for me personally, wrestling Oak Park River Forest at the Clash in the finals, because we had the undisputed national champion title on the line, and we switched our lineup around a little bit and made some adjustments mid-duel, but I was able to get the fall, get a pin over a pretty tough kid, maybe Fargo All-American. But I think why that was so special to me is if I ever watch that video, I just remember hearing my father in the background, and just the signature, you know, West African tone, like going crazy, not really giving technical advice, but giving a lot of support, and just the spirit and energy of him in the background of that video was super special to me. And to be able to contribute to a national team title basically was something incredible. And yeah, I'm just extremely grateful for my time there, and my coaches, Jim Jackson, Jamel Tidwell, Jake Avery, Bill Demaray, Tony Abbott, Josh Barledge, Ashes Dean, all those guys. You know, I'm forever grateful for the lessons they taught me as a wrestler and becoming a young man.
Wow. Man, how many state titles did you win yourself?
I won three.
Okay, and how
Yeah.
was that experience?
First one's always the best one. No, it was awesome, and it was great to compete against the guys that I had the chance to go up against. I think just that freshman year was so special because I'd finally earned the spot on the team. Like I said, in 7th and 8th grade, I was a backup, and without sounding arrogant, I probably would have been varsity at a lot of schools in Minnesota if I wasn't at Apple Valley. But at the time, you're young and impatient. You want to make an impact right away. You want kind of, you want to be a part of the Beatles at that point. And they had a lot of big things going on. But I don't think mentally I was ready. Physically, I definitely wasn't. And maturity-wise, I wasn't. So I got to kind of marinate in the background. And my 8th grade year, they really let me tag along. And Seth had a big cut to 103, and they brought me on the road with them everywhere. I was kind of his warm-up partner and just getting to see everything up close and what it required. But my freshman year, I made a big turn at the Cheesehead in Wisconsin. It had some nationally ranked guys at 106, and the layout was pool play. So you had pool play, and then you went into the championship bracket. I think it's changed since, but that's when the Cheesehead was, really, really high-level tournament. And I took a loss in the pool, but I ended up making my way to the championship bracket. Had a nice upset over a Montini kid, and I ended up winning the Cheesehead. And I remember Jim Jackson, he would tell me, in the later years when I ended up coaching alongside of him, that's when he knew I was legit. And I think that, too, it just helped my confidence a lot. Like, a guy I really looked up to, my buddy Destin McCauley, he had reached out to me, Eric DeVos, guys I really looked up to, and they told me that it was good work, and getting acknowledgement from those kind of guys, especially in the room we were in, if they were reaching out, it meant something. So I think that's when I turned the corner my freshman year, and I ended up beating kid Trevor Westerland in the state finals. And I think I was number 2 on paper, but I had it in my head I was gonna go win the state tournament. I had like 8 chips in like a year. Like, I was locked in. I just put it in my locker, put it on my phone screen, like Maolu Woiwor, first ever 106-pound AAA state champ. And so that was special. My second state title was really awesome. I think it paid off. I cut too much weight, which ended up leading to an early retirement for myself and a little bit of burnout. So if I could hypothetically redo it, maybe I would have wrestled up again, but that's neither here nor there. And then junior year capped it off with a 132-pound state title, and a lot of team titles to go with it. So that was probably even more special, was getting to do it with my guys.
Dude, I felt like Apple Valley got a lot of hate. Right? Like, I felt if you wore the AV singlet, automatically people hate you. Is that true?
Yeah. I think that's definitely valid. Once again, it's like when you're younger and you're experiencing it, it's difficult to grasp and like understand, why that. Like I said, all of us that transferred dealt with it. I remember school, Eastview. I'm gonna call them out by name because their coaches were some punks, and they would forfeit to anybody that transferred when we wrestled them. And they were a high school that was in Apple Valley, so we always felt some type of way about that. But I dealt with it a lot. I got to watch my brother go through it. But you talk about guys like Mark Hall, Destin McCauley, who were really operating on another level. Mark endured a lot of hate from, like I said, grown men, dudes with families who should be ashamed of themselves. But as I've grown older and become a civilian, not competing, I understand like the concept of David versus Goliath, and especially being somewhere like the state tournament, wanting to see the guy from a smaller town who didn't wrestle every single day with the best guys, wanting to see them have some success. So, I kind of chalk it up to it being less about us and more about like them and what people wanted to see. But yeah, it was bad, man. One thing I remember, it was like Christmas Eve after we moved to Apple Valley. We had some coward, dude. It was like a mom or something. That's the weirdest part. But from Sibley East in Minnesota, like they called the state high school league and said we were driving like 3 hours to go to Apple Valley, and then a state high school league rep knocks at our door on like Christmas Eve to make sure we live there. And that's when I realized, like, there's some weirdos out there. And just for the record, too, when you're dealing with people like that, it's more insecurity about them and their abilities and what their kids accomplished than it is about you. So if you are anybody that's dealing with that, or you feel like, you know, you have animosity coming towards you that you may not understand, you got to just brush it off your shoulder and realize it's less about you and more about the person spewing that hate.
For sure, because you mentioned it was sacrifice for you guys to go there. It wasn't just like, oh, we're showing up here and we have everything at our feet. Like, no, it was sacrifice for your family, right?
1,000%, man. And I can't drive the point home enough about my parents, man. I'm forever indebted. And as I've grown older, I don't have kids yet, but you know, I see the sacrifice my siblings make with their kids, with my friends make with their kids, and you know, I wish I could go back and be more grateful in the moment, but you know, I owe everything to my parents, and you know how much they did, not just financially but mentally, physically, spiritually, that they sacrificed for us to reach our goals and for us to just have a smile on our face. And you know, there were people, you know, even that we wrestled with that had the resources to be able to make a move across the state or across the country and not be a big deal, but we didn't come from one of those situations. My parents sacrificed a lot, and to this day they would do anything for their kids. So I mean, I can't say how much I love them and I appreciate them.
Man, fantastic. So talk about your state title celebrations. I know you had some sick ones, and I think you guys only wore like the gold singlet for state finals too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about your state title celebrations and how wearing that gold singlet, how it made you feel.
Yeah, it turned me into Superman for sure. It turned a lot of people into Superman. So I think even too, respectfully to my guys at Valley today, the elders have congregated, and we believe that you should save the gold singlet for only higher level tournaments in the finals. You don't want to water down the brand. That's all I'm going to say on that. You know, I love all those guys coming out of Apple Valley right now, but I will say that freshman year, I don't know, I think I just went kind of hands up. Maybe I did the Bubba Jenkins shooting the ankle bands down, but I think that was more just like a dream come true. I didn't really know what to do. I just put my hands up. It was a moment I had visualized for so long, like finally getting the job done, going and hugging my parents. So that was awesome. My sophomore year, I'd finally like to come forward with my truth, and I know he'll appreciate this. I, in fact, stole Seth Gross's state title celebration, which was, I don't know if we can see it on camera here. It was my second state title. Seth and I were both going for our second state titles. I did the rock, paper, scissors, 2 up in the air for my second state title. And Seth had this planned out probably since the middle of the year. And at Apple Valley, what we would do a lot, at least my guys, we would, after hard practice or whatever, we get done with live and conditioning, we would all go practice our state celebrations. And I think a lot of it was having fun. You know, there was a slight aspect of just visualization of like trying to put yourself in the moment. And we had the best coaches in the country who would really, you know, lock us in mindset-wise on visualizing before we were at the moment. So when we got to the state tournament, walking in the XL, hearing thousands of people booing us, whatever, we were already, you know, prepared for that. But Seth revealed that state title celebration, and I took it from him. And third state title, I think I threw up a 3. I don't know how I did it, but I was the third state title. The last one was more just pressure alleviated, a sense of relief, because I had taken a bad loss a couple weeks before the state tournament. I think people were kind of questioning where I was at that point in the season, in my career. And you know, I wasn't making the best decisions, nothing crazy, but just like I wasn't fine-tuned going into the state tournament, treating it as important as it was. And I think, you know, I knew deep down I was going to go win a state title. I was going to, you know, make it a comfortable thing. But you know, I came to find out later, even some of my buddies weren't quite sure if I'd get the job done. But I do take a little bit of credit with being on a team with as many successful wrestlers as I was, I imagine maybe Brandon Kingsley. There's probably a couple guys, but one thing I do take home is that I never lost at the XL Energy Center between team and individual. So a little bit proud of that one.
Okay. Can you talk about just like a regular practice for Apple Valley, if there's one? And can you talk about what a practice maybe looked before, like big competition, like just a national, whatever, and like maybe state tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, preseason, I'll say we'd play a lot of soccer, and got our feet moving, and then we'd wrestle. That was pretty standard. When I first got to Apple Valley, it was Todd McCauley. Shout out to Todd. He really impacted me a lot too in my younger years. But a standard varsity practice when I was in high school, start jogging. Well, we'd come and sit up in the room. Like when I was in middle school, they had like a freshman practice before varsity. So some of us had to do that. But when I was like in high school, we'd come sit up in the room, talk a little bit depending how my weight was and my attitude was, was how social I was, but warm up a little bit. We did a lot of gymnastics in our room. The coaches and the captains were great with that. And then we would do a little bit of footwork, and stance and motion was huge, duck strikes and throw-bys, stuff that I try to emulate too with my own club, mine and Seth's club, to this day. And then, our coaches did a phenomenal job because, like I said, they were best guys in the country. I have no doubt about that. And they figured out a way to taper down at the right time during the year to get us to peak in March when it mattered at the state tournament. So beginning of the year, you're looking at like a 2-hour practice comfortably. And, after doing technique, we had great technicians, Coach Dalen Wasman. When I was young in there, Coach Chad Erickson. We had Jamel Tidwell, a lot of phenomenal guys that Jim Jackson orchestrated and put into place as the mastermind he is of Minnesota wrestling. But doing our technique, getting into hard drilling was something that was really tough for me to adjust to when I got to Apple Valley. Like I just hadn't done that pace and got out of my comfort zone, but that greatly benefited me when I did get a chance at the varsity lineup. Going into live wrestling where you're wrestling guys who are, FILA junior or cadet world team members, Fargo champions, state champions. And after that, you get to do conditioning, which, we had days where we did stations, the weighted vest, something I swear by to this day is the Bulgarian bags, the supples, Ivan Ivanov out of Boise, Idaho. I think that extreme innovation there with the Bulgarian bags he has. And like I said, those joy runs, doing sprints down and back, and up the rope was something that instilled character in a lot of us. And, you had the Monster 88, like rope climb type thing. I was never too solid with that, but it was a lot of great resources in our backyard, which I credit to the Apple Valley Community Program, Booster Program, and coaches that we didn't have to go to private clubs at that time or go drive 30 minutes. Our buddy Cameron had to drive 2 hours, 2.5 hours to get good practices in sometimes. And it was just resource-based. I know Wheaton, Border West had some awesome coaches, but maybe the partners weren't all there for them. But Apple Valley did a phenomenal job of providing everything on site for us. So there was really no excuse not to get in there and work. So I think communities, clubs, booster clubs could really learn from that by just making everything as accessible as possible and investing into your program, whether it's coaches, whether it's with weights, with just accessibility to the wrestling room, and build around the core group of guys you got that are willing to put in work.
For sure. Man, something that sticks out for me just up Apple Valley, like Mark Hall, Superducks, and then I remember, I forget what tournament it was. I think it was a duel, and he like gator rolled the kid and pinned him. I think Marcus Chaudel or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
That? Can you talk about like his Superduck and then that match?
Yeah.
'Cause it was nuts, that match.
I know. I faintly remember, dude. It's been a minute, but Mark had a nasty Superduck. Like a lot of guys on our team, like really had nasty Superducks. I unfortunately did not have a nasty Superduck. I think it was a confidence factor. I didn't really try it too much, but Mark had an awesome Superduck, and it's what made him fun to watch, man. And what made people wanna get Flow Wrestling and be able to check him out. And I got to give a shout out to Jake Waste, who was one of the original, if not the original. They used to have a segment called like Dirty Flow of the Week or something like that. Flow Wrestling had a segment where they would show sick moves, and he hit a Superduck that was just asinine on a kid at the Cheesehead. And I want to say that set it off for a lot of the Apple Valley guys doing Superducks. But Jake Waste, if you know, you know. If you saw that Superduck back in the day, it was unbelievable. It went viral before viral was a thing in the wrestling community. And as far as that Shadell match, I think that was a St. Ed's kid. And Marky just doing Marky things, man. Like, bring us your best guy and we'll throw him out. Like, I'm not sure exactly what the sequence of the match was like at that point, but I know Mark got to where he was comfortable, and that's what made him so special, is the fact that he was willing to try moves like that. Like, you have coaches that preach, don't do the headlock, don't do the gator roll, don't do things that are going to put you in danger, but that's what wrestling is about, is if you practice and if you are comfortable and you have some belief in yourself, it doesn't have to be reckless, but if you know how to wrestle, go wrestle. And that's what Mark did every time he stepped on the mat. You watch him in high school and some of the things he did to guys who were world-class wrestlers, you know, and top guys in the country. He made them look like amateurs.
Man, can you talk about, I remember, you know, Mark Hall just being great from a young age, right? Yeah. But I remember very vividly, you know, Gable, you know, he came to Apple Valley 8th grade, or was that his first varsity year?
Yes.
And he had a target on his back. People thought he would be doing great, but he lost in the state finals, right?
Dude.
Can you talk about, just like from your point of view, seeing Gable that 8th grade year, and then after that he won 4 state titles, correct?
Yeah, he did. Dude, I remember that one vividly because I had won state, and Gable was like a no-brainer to me. Everybody had found out at that point of the season what Gable was about, and he was young doing what he was doing at such a big weight. And I had the chance to wrestle Gable a lot, like in the off-season practices and in practice, like even though our weights were so different, but we would grab each other, and it wasn't even like I could never tell if he was going super hard against me or not, but like we drilled a lot, and he was just like the young homie, and I'm not little bro in him, but he was just a little bit younger. So I looked at him in that role when he lost his state title. Like, I don't know, I had felt my heartbreak when my brother lost his sophomore year state title. He'd won his freshman year, went into the state finals, 145 his sophomore year, and like, dude, when he lost, I was heartbroken. When Gable lost, I had like survivor's guilt, dude. I had survivor's guilt of winning and seeing Gable lose. But the thing that makes that dude a champion is he's just ice cold, dude. He's so smooth. And like, I remember going up to him and I didn't even know how to approach him, and he just like, he was like, it was all good, like he wasn't tripping on it at all. And I think, you know, you look at the great athletes of this world, and you know, it's not that they're not upset about it or that they're not disappointed, but all he did was look forward from that moment. That's just what I remember most, is, you know, feeling so bad about, you know, what am I even gonna say to this dude? I feel so bad. He was supposed to win this. He's gonna be a 5-timer. And then when I went up to talk to him, I thought I was going to have to console him or something. But the dude was smooth. Like, he had the emotional maturity of someone beyond his years. And, I mean, I think that reflects on the mat. And, you know, shout out to Gable, just signed with the Buffalo Bills, doing his thing. And, you know, I have no question whatever he does, he's going to excel at. And anybody that's down Gable is out of their mind.
Did you think at that time he was going to be as great as he is?
Dude, I knew he was going to be nice, but I cannot say I knew he was going to be an Olympic gold medalist at, 19, 20 years old.
What'd you think about that match? Crazy.
That was, dude, it's just winners win. They find a way to win, and, you know, with all odds against you, you know, and we try to teach it to our young kids at the club right now, is that if there's time on the clock, you compete, you know, until the ref blows the whistle, there's a chance for you to win. And you can't take yourself out of the match by giving up when there's still time on the clock. You know, if you get, I say to kids all the time, if you score and you go up in the match, focus on growing the lead, doing what you have to do. if you get points against you or you're down a little bit in a hole, just chip back away and do what you got to do. Or even if there's not much time left, you got to go try something, go out on your shield. But what you can't do is just
give up.
Give up. Yeah, literally give up.
Man, funny story about Gable winning gold. I was watching that match like live, and I lost like internet connection. It was legitly like the last 10 seconds, man.
Yo.
And I was like, dang, I didn't get to see the last 10 seconds. I was like, okay, he lost, right?
Yeah.
No lie, I look on Twitter and everybody's like
going crazy.
And I'm like, what happened? So even though I think it would have been cool to see him win it, but the fact that I missed it and then just saw the reaction online and just
in
like
real time.
Yeah. It was like something. I was like, man,
that is crazy. That sounds like me watching illegal streams of UFC on Stream East. Shout out to Stream East. If you know, you know. But we'll keep it low key so that it doesn't get busted. But nah, that would be wild.
Okay, man. Talk about you have a brother, Daniel Wayward. I remember back in the day watching you guys, compete Apple Valley. I remember him coloring his freaks pink. Can you talk about your brother and then coloring his freaks pink?
Yeah. Also, shout out to my big brother, Jay Wayward. My oldest brother. He only started wrestling his freshman year, but was a 2-time state entrant and maybe qualifier. I think if he would have started in the sport as early as I did, he would have, had some crazy accolades. So shout out to Jay as well. Dude's getting married, having a kid, just bought a house, doing his thing.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, no, Daniel's the man, and he was, like I said, he was always the guy I looked to as far as what to do and how to do it, and that was outside of wrestling with football and baseball. That's the guy I wanted to be like. With his pink freaks, that was actually an ode to Dakota Trom's late mother, who had died of breast cancer. A lot of the Apple Valley wrestlers colored their Nike freaks pink, and it was cool to see because a lot of kids that looked up to those guys dyed colored their shoes pink too as well. So rest in peace to Lottie Trom for sure. But yeah, Daniel's an incredible wrestler, and he had a stint at Iowa State and ended up moving out to the West Coast, where he coaches wrestlers. But his big thing he's been really locked in on is coaching MMA wrestling within MMA, and he's doing some amazing things. He's got a chance. He's actually the wrestling coach for Marlon Chito Vera, who just came off a title fight in Miami in March. Fell short on that, but it was cool to see my big brother in the corner, and he'll be headed to Abu Dhabi, I think August 4th or 5th, for Chito's next fight. But he's doing an awesome job, and I can't be more proud of the dude. He's getting it done on that end, and it's definitely inspiring me to make a little bit of that transition into mixed martial arts, coaching wise, and coaching fighters on their wrestling is something I really have aspirations of.
For sure. Have you got the opportunity to scrap with Chito?
Yeah. My brother's brought me out a few times to wrestle with him. Hopefully in the next couple weeks I'll go out for their August camp. And Chito's just a worker, and he reminds me of my boy Seth Gross, like two dudes that they don't quit. And it's scary working with high level, just straight killers, athletes like that, because the problem is as the go goes longer, as the match goes longer, whatever you want to call it, the sparring session, they start getting stronger. So that's a scary feeling, is when you see them starting to feed off you losing energy, and they're type of dudes like take you to deep waters and drown you. So I have had the chance to compete, well, not compete, but wrestle with Chito, and he's a great athlete and a great fighter and an awesome dude.
Cool stuff, man. So you're currently coaching. Yep. I know you have like a really cool camp coming up. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So we have the Driftless Ranch Wrestling Camp. Our first one's actually next Sunday to next Tuesday, which we sold out, is the elementary school camp. And our following one is the next week, Sunday to Tuesday, June 23rd through June 25th, who we actually collaborating with Mike McKenna at his ranch called the Driftless Ranch in the Driftless region of Wisconsin. Beautiful area. He has an awesome ranch, and him and his wife Diamond and the McKenna family have been kind enough to let us host it there. So been doing a lot of work. Gonna go put together some triple stack bunk beds here next week to get the kids ready to go. But it's an awesome wrestling camp. It's gonna feature myself, Seth Gross, Caden Henschel, and about Rana Gross as well, and about 4 or 5 UW Madison wrestlers. Both of those camps will have myself, Seth, Caden, and Rana, and some wrestlers to be counselors. And it's gonna be a really cool experience because we're not just wrestling a bunch and then putting the key in the barn and telling the kids to fall asleep in the barn, but we're gonna focus on a lot of outdoor activities. The McKenna family has a beautiful ranch, like I said, where they have elk, red stag, caribou, white-tailed deer, so the kids will be able to see the property, see the animals out there, and do some cool stuff. They have an indoor pool on the ranch, indoor hot tub, movie theater, and arcade. So our middle school camp still has a few spots left open. If this video comes out in time and you want to sign up, make sure to go talk to your parents, or if you are a parent, check in. I think Adolfo is going to put the link in, but it's going to be...
click this right here.
Yeah, click this right here. It'll be the best camp in America, and I will go on record saying that. So if you get the chance to come this time, please don't hesitate. We're looking at doing another high school one later in the summer if it works out. But, ideally everything goes smooth and we're able to run more in the future. But it's going to be incredible experience that's not just wrestling but lifestyle and a complete camp. So once again, shout out to the McKenna family and everybody that's helping put that together.
Awesome stuff. Man, you talked about Olympic trials. We talked about earlier off the camera.
Yep.
Stuff like that. Can you talk about what were you doing there at Olympic trials?
So I got to go out. Had an awesome opportunity through my buddy Seth Gross and the Sunkissed Kids to go out as his workout partner, warm-up partner for the trials, help him warm up, get down to weight the day before. So it was out at Penn State. And, I got to go out to the Bryce Jordan Center and work out in the Penn State room. It was awesome. They have awesome facility, and, the coaches were very accommodating, and it was just a really cool experience seeing a lot of people I knew out there. Marky was out there. It was really cool. Unfortunately, my boy Seth fell short of his goals and aspirations of making the Olympic team this time, but he's got a fire in him, so I know 2028 comes around, he's going to give it everything he's got, and I have no doubt he can be the Olympic champion. And one thing I will say, because I know Seth won't say it, but I know everybody's dealing with injuries, but he had popped his bursa sac on his knee like a couple days before, and he was really, really struggling, and I don't think you'll ever see that dude with a knee pad, but he had his knee taped up. And I only say that to say it was tough watching, like somebody you consider a brother go after, their biggest goal, their biggest dream, and be hindered by something that's out of their control. And I know he won't make any excuses, so I won't make any for him in saying that, you see Zane Rutherford with a head wrap every time you see the guy. So everybody's dealing with injuries, but I do know that when Seth is healthy, he's one of the best guys on the planet. For
sure. Well, man, Mark Hall retired at the Olympic trials. What were your thoughts on that?
That was tough to see, man. That was super tough to see because it's like, seeing that like a superhero is not invincible, because that dude he's been to the highest level of wrestling, multiple time world champion, and I know he's always aspired to get into coaching. So as much sadness as there is of not being able to see him on the mat, I am super ecstatic to see him joining our boy Cameron Sikora down at Oklahoma. Cameron, I hope he's getting the credit he deserves with OU, their athletic department and staff, because he's making big time moves. Cameron's always on my phone. I'm sure he's on your phone, asking about a coach, asking about a wrestler. But Landon Mark Hall is big time. A lot of these kids grew up watching Mark Hall, and for him to step into that coaching role is going to be huge. And I know the impact both those guys are going to make in Oklahoma is gonna be bigger than what people are expecting. I know there's a lot of hype around Oklahoma State, and that's that's well deserved. But don't sleep on what the Sooners got coming.
Yeah, man, they're doing very well in recruiting. I know Cam's on the road, I think, right now.
Oh yeah.
But one thing I'm really pumped for is the SEC football. You know,
Oh,
OU
yeah.
versus Tennessee.
Oh,
I
yeah.
tell Cameron, "Hey, we're gonna win," and he's like, "No, Oklahoma's gonna win." But man, we're here in Knoxville. What you think about the place, man?
Dude, shout out to Adolfo Felix, my guy, the host and founder of Wrestlers Grind, because people will take you or tell you they're gonna show you around the city. This dude showed me every crevice of Knoxville, and I'm super grateful because I got to actually be in the streets and experience what the culture is like here, the downtown, the South Side. He took me to all these spots, and it was just really, really cool being outside with the people, especially with the weather. Beautiful. But Knoxville is amazing. I'm out here in Gatlinburg for a wrestling tournament this weekend, and Adolfo hit me up, and he's been awesome. So shout out to Adolfo, and I'll give him his flowers quick. This guy has been incredible to see the way that he's built this brand up. And we had a conversation earlier, grabbing a bite to eat, just about the passion he has for wrestling, is unmatched. And I think, obviously you got to make a living doing what you're trying to do, but this guy is really, really in it for the love of the game. And, we had a great conversation about, him pivoting from WWE when he was super young to baseball, to then he found his love with wrestling. And I can tell the way he speaks about it. And, the guy's a brainiac. I have a high level of respect for this guy. I think the highest level people in the sport respect this guy. So if you're not familiar with this dude, you better get in tune. Adolfo is a wrestling genius.
Man, I appreciate that. I'm a fan of you because not just your wrestling, man, but your music.
Oh, dude.
Dude, I love your music. I'm telling you, man.
That's
I used
funny.
to bump that all. Not used to. I still bump it.
Oh, okay.
So can you talk about your music, man? Because I love it.
Yeah, man. Definitely take it a step back. I'm actually more in a managerial role and producing with my brother Don Mooney, an artist from Dallas, Texas, out in Minneapolis right now. But yeah, I like to tap into my creative side, and I think it's healthy, honestly. And it's not to just bring it straight back to wrestling, but I had a coach in high school, Jake Avery, who was monumental in my growth as a wrestler and a person. And he would talk about how wrestling is like art. Like, he felt like he was Picasso out there. And, I would laugh. I would think he was a joke. But, like, as I get older, I see exactly what he means by that. And I feel it, too, when I'm in there sparring or wrestling. But, yeah, music's one of my many passions. Try to be a multi-dimensional dude. And I think anybody watching this, too, young or old, don't be afraid to tap into your creativity. And, even if you feel like it's not the popular thing to do, or, you're afraid of being judged for it, I think it's a healthy thing to do. And it's especially with a creative outlet and outlook, whether it's into sports or out into life, is super healthy. So yeah, I appreciate that, my friend. I'm currently focused on building the training center up, but I do appreciate that.
100%, man. Well, man, I'm trying to think of any other questions I have for you. The shirt that you're repping, though. Talk about that.
Yeah, my guy Jory Volk had to get this to support this dude. Last night I got a Zach Glazier shirt, just some local Minnesota guys who I got to see grow up a little bit, and proud of the success they're having collegiately, and just good dudes overall. And yeah, before we do finish this up, Adolfo, you've been great, brother. Got to give a few shout outs to my boys. Obviously, D-Way, my brother, my family, Cameron, who obviously connected us in the beginning. Give a shout out to my club, fun to watch, FTW Wrestling back home. My guys, Ari, Teddy, all our wrestlers, Hawk, Cashton, Colton Mueller, all those guys. So I got a few shout outs to all my dudes. My guy Mike McKenna, and Rocky, my workout partners. Rocky's our leader, man. He gets us in there, and he's been getting us pumped up. So he does an awesome job of getting some discipline in me and keeping me on track. So I appreciate Mike and Rocky. But yeah, anybody that, you know, day to day is a part of my life, I'm extremely grateful for. And people like Adolfo, man, I pride myself in being a relationships guy, so I'm glad we're able to make the connection while I'm out here in Tennessee. Oh, I'm sorry, Doc. And my guys back in Milton, Wisconsin, who I had the pleasure to coach with, Justin Sanchez. Got to roll with Royce Nilo, Pat Yauk, Killian Yauk, Jake Wagner, Tristan Woods, Justin Montani. All those guys, awesome dudes.
For sure, man. I almost have to put like it's all jokes, but like
Yeah.
the movie, like, you know, credits.
The credits,
Just
all the
run it
shout
down.
outs, man.
Yeah, all the shout
My
outs.
guys know I got love for them, so I had to shout everybody out. If you know, you know.
No,
I appreciate you guys.
No, that's great, man. Dude, we got some things. We're gonna try to collab on some things in the
100%.
future. So this isn't the only time we're gonna be connecting. So I'm excited for that. Wrestler's Grind, trying to get into everything if we can, and especially with the people that, you know, we have connections with, and just good people like yourself, man. I really love the things that you're doing. So I know for sure we're gonna be doing some stuff together.
1000%, man. And I haven't, if I haven't emphasized it enough, if like Wrestlers Grind, invest in the stock right now. It's like Apple stock in the 80s or whatever, because being able to spend the day with Adolfo and hearing his plans, his vision, his boy Hunter, and their partners have right now is truly incredible, and they're pushing the sport in the right direction.